What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the antitrust probe of Ticketmaster that was sparked by the Taylor Swift ticket sale fiasco. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how we got here, what an antitrust action is, and my opinion on whether or not I think an antitrust action would be successful if the government brings one against Ticketmaster. So before we get to the botched sale of Taylor Swift tickets that occurred in November of 2022, we need to understand how we got here.
History time with Attorney Tom.
In 1976, in Arizona, Ticketmaster was founded, and it quickly rose the ranks, becoming one of the largest ticket sale organizations in the entire United States. And they did so with a very basic business model that can be defined in 3 words: increase service charges. Now, for most people out there, you're probably thinking that seems counterintuitive, because if you're an artist or a venue, the higher the ticket service charges are, the higher the ticket prices are, and if the ticket prices are higher, the less people want to come to the show. So why would an artist or a venue agree to the service charge increase? Well, Ticketmaster had the ingenious idea of cutting the venues and artists into the service charge. Hey, this is Tom from Ticketmaster. Listen, you're a great artist. I would love to work with you. Here's my idea. I'm gonna double the price of the service charges. As an artist, why does that make any sense? If you raise the price of the tickets, less people are gonna come see me, and I don't make any extra money off the service charges. You're the one who's making money if you increase the service charges. Well, you see, that's the beauty of it. We increase the service charges, and then we give you a cut of the service charges, so we're all making more money. Sign me up. And sign people up they did. Flash forward to the early 2000s, Ticketmaster had basically acquired or just forced their way to essentially be the only player in the industry until Live Nation showed up. Now, Live Nation comes along, which traditionally was a company that prioritized promoting live events, says, hey, listen, we already promote these live events. Let's get into the ticket selling game as well. And they started to gobble up part of Ticketmaster's market share. So as a result of Live Nation's rise, in 2010, Ticketmaster decided to acquire Live Nation. Now, when Live Nation was acquired by Ticketmaster in 2010, these two companies were already the major players in the game, so it did spark an antitrust probe by the Department of Justice, but ultimately, the DOJ greenlit the transaction. So Ticketmaster and Live Nation became one company, and for essentially the past 12 years, they have controlled the live event landscape. History time's over.
History time with Attorney Tom.
Well, this leads us to the events of the past few months. Recently, Taylor Swift announced the arrival of her Eras tour, with tickets supposed to be on sale in the 3rd week of November. And when it came time for the tickets to be released, well, Ticketmaster was a disaster. Fans waited in online queues for literally hours and hours and hours. During the ticket sale process, fans suffered a whole plethora of problems, anywhere from the website crashing to them getting charged for multiple tickets, yet not having any tickets transferred to them not even being able to get out of the queue. Basically, it was just a whole colossal failure. So Ticketmaster ended up completely shutting down and stopping the sale, saying they were going to restart the public sale on November 18th, yet the demand was so high and there was so much traffic and pressure on their website that they couldn't even do that. Now, what we're seeing on the secondary market is for the lucky few people who were able to get tickets, or entities that were able to get tickets, they're trying to resell these tickets for an absurd amount of money. Which brings us to where we're at today, where a lot of people are really upset. They're upset at Ticketmaster and they're upset at Taylor Swift as well. But if you're Taylor Swift, Ticketmaster was realistically probably your only viable option. Which brings us to the antitrust problem. For anybody who doesn't know, an antitrust refers to the regulation of the concentration of economic power, particularly in regards to monopolies and other anti-competitive practices. Now, antitrust law has its origins from the Sherman Act of
1890.
Its flagship case using the Sherman Act is probably the breakup of Standard Oil.
History time.
Now, we are not going to go down the antitrust rabbit hole because we could make an extremely long video about that, but there are 2 primary things that the government is going to look for on whether or not they think they can prevail in an antitrust litigation. The first thing they look for is the existence of a monopoly. And the second thing they're going to look for is unfair practices. So now let's apply that very basic analysis to the situation of Ticketmaster. As stated earlier, Ticketmaster is really the only major player in the game. Now, I'm not denying the existence of smaller ticketing companies. You might have your local ticketing company that maybe sells at one particular venue or a couple venues in your local area. But on a national scale, Ticketmaster really seems to be the only major player. Now, time for the more interesting analysis is the second element is, does Ticketmaster employ unfair trade practices? And I think you could definitely make a case for that. For instance, this is an article from Politico describing the whole Ticketmaster saga. In late 2019, the company already settled with the DOJ over violations of an earlier agreement. The DOJ accused the company of using its dominant position in the live music industry to force artists and venues to use both its ticketing and concert promotion services. Yes, you heard that right. So essentially what Ticketmaster was doing is saying, hey, listen, artists, if you don't use us, we won't let you into these particular venues that have exclusivity with us. And then from the venues perspective, they were telling the venues, hey, venues, if you don't use Ticketmaster, we're not going to give you access to the artists that have exclusive rights with us. So Ticketmaster was basically blacklisting both sides of the aisle because they could or because they can. So overall, on its face, I definitely think there's a valid claim for a antitrust action, but now it's time for the bad news. If the government decides to bring in antitrust action, these things take an extremely long time. The antitrust action brought against AT&T took over a decade to come to fruition. So in reality, if you're looking for any substantial change to the ticketing service industry anytime soon, you're not going to get it. But you have to start somewhere, and if the government is going to bring an antitrust action against Ticketmaster, well, there's no better time than the present to start. That's it for today's video. Bye.
I have this thing where I get greedy, but just never wiser. Make money all afternoon, when my system's only worked the graveyard shift. All of the people I'd rob cry right there in the room. It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. At ticket time, everybody agrees. I'll lobby till the sun dies before you get your ticket faster. It must be exhausting, always buying on Ticketmaster. He's a catastrophic injury attorney who accidentally became a YouTuber. Attorney Tom.